Global Indian Network. Print, TV, events, podcasts. Find out more at globalindianseries.com.
Welcome back to the Global Indian Podcast, home to the greatest conversations and the official platform for open and liberal minds. Because yes, let's face it, we are everywhere. Now, as you know, every single week we plunge ourselves into the human experience behind our perceptions of identity, take a second look at the countries we now call home, and tackle the big conversations. Well, this week I was thinking about the world of identity through music. And what does it truly mean to represent a nation, or nations in that respect, especially as people of Indian origin? Well, to help answer these questions, I reached out to a dear friend, Sarah Packiam, who is a remarkable musician. She is a presenter for HBO, and her work is seen right the way across the globe. I asked her about her background, what does this notion of Indianness mean to her? What is this whole idea of identity? And it was a remarkable discussion. A very raw one, and what you hear is a person who's being very open and upfront and emotionally naked to help us uncover what it means not just to be her, but the issues surrounding people with their ideas of identity and the sense of belonging. But before then, a quick note from our dear sponsors. If you want to find out more about the Global Indian Series, by the way, well, it couldn't be easier. Simply come to the website, which is www.globalindianseries.com. There you can listen to this podcast and the entire repertoire of discussions so far.
Hi, this is Dharmesh Shingala, co-founder of Novus. At Novus, we believe technology leads the way for a meaningful change. We are on a mission to change the way corporations, governments, and institutions interact with information. Same as the Global Indian podcast, help people transform for a better future. Find out more on how we are inspiring global change, either at the Global Indian Series website or Novus website to learn more about our innovative software solutions. From our family to yours, I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you.
My name is Chitra Stern, and I am a proud Global Indian Ambassador and CEO of Martignal Resorts and Martignal Residences. We pride ourselves on the journeys that define a community, and our developments bring people together. Did you know that over 70,000 people just like us call Portugal home? The Global Indian journey has brought people together in a meaningful way, and on behalf of all of us at Martignal, we want to thank you for joining us in these remarkable conversations. We look forward to seeing you here in Lisbon post-COVID.
Hi, my name is Divya and I'm co-founder of the Global Indian Podcast. Before you get to today's show, I've got a quick favour to ask. If you've been enjoying our conversations, I'd love if you could take just 1 minute to leave us a review on the platform that you're listening to us on and share our work to friends and family. It helps us out a lot. Word of mouth is the primary way that we grow. Thanks for your continued support.
Thank you, Rajan. Thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here.
You're more than welcome. So, Sarah, run me through, what's it like to be you? Because I know we're speaking just slightly before we started recording about some of the ideas around identity. And you said, look, Rajan, is hard because you're kind of having to face with the dualities of how the world sees you. What's it like on your side?
Growing up, it was amazing because so special. I was the only probably the only Indian girl in the village, half Indian. And from very young, I would tell everyone, well, I'm half Indian in an Irish, obviously growing up in Ireland. And super proud from the beginning, knew I was special, embracing it. And I think getting older, I realized it was harder to fit in because, the way I looked, or like the Irish didn't think I was Irish. The Indians didn't really recognize me as looking Indian. So I've kind of still dealing with this identity crisis between East and West.
What does it mean to you, though? Is it a sense of belonging that you're searching for? Or?
Yeah, it's weird, right? It's a very good question. Like, why? You're almost going to make me cry. It's like, yeah, why do we do this? It is a good question. And I don't know if I've asked myself that and thought about it deeply, but yeah, I guess it's belonging and acceptance and feeling a part of the tribe, you know?
Yeah.
I've tried to explore it with music, which feels amazing. Exploring like in my Indian sides and my Irish sides. Uh, and that's awesome. But sometimes I wonder, like, am I doing it because I want to fit in that, you know? Like people ask me, like, it's again with music, the same thing. It's like, what's your genre? I mean, do we need to have a genre? Like one day I feel like I want to play rock and roll. The next day I want to play jazz. The next day I want to write like a song that sounds like gospel. Uh, and then I have this Irish folkiness in me, and it's like constantly trying to explain to the world what box you fit in. And maybe I don't want to more
Yeah.
musically, but I think uh nationality wise, I just want to fit in. I want to fit in.
Fit into whom or where?
Oh, this thing of just constantly being told, but you're not Irish. You're not really Irish, right? No. But where's your dad? Where's your parents from? Where were you born? And it's like, ugh, so I have to take my like passport out. Do you want to test my blood? Do you? I was born in Ireland. My mother is Irish. Yeah, my dad is from India, but and then leaving Ireland, yeah, like just going to Irish bars or like I'd love connecting with, say for example, an Irish bartender. They're famous. They're great chatters. It's a good place to be, an Irish bar, no matter where you are in the world, especially if you're missing home. And they just look at me and they're just like, well, you're not Irish, like, and that would really bother me. Um, but then, yeah, I don't know. What do you
Is it?
think?
No, it's interesting. um, no, it's interesting because it's the whole idea of saying, is the arbitrary factor of our skin color something that is a pure coincidence to our birth?
This
Is
is
that
it.
the only defining moment that people look at each other saying, hey, you are this or you are that? Now, it's interesting because obviously you lived in LA, you do stuff with HBO that you're dealing with Latin American singers and musicians. Do
Yeah.
people,
So I'm in Miami. I'm in Miami right now.
yeah,
I live in Miami. But uh, it's amazing here because, as you said, I'm dealing with the Latin community, and I'm accepted in the Latin community. Maybe it's because I look like them. Maybe it's because um, I speak Spanish. I don't speak Hindi. I don't speak any Indian languages, unfortunately. But I speak Spanish, and I'm accepted, and that feels good. And they, it's really interesting because we have lots of different nationalities within the Latin community. So we have Peruvians, we have Cubans, we have Colombians, we have all these different types of Spanish, different cultures, different foods, different, um, different ways of life, even different, and I love that. I love that, and they don't question me. As soon as they hear me speak Spanish, they're like, "Wow, where are you from? What, like, So I don't know. Am I rambling?
no, no, I don't. Well, I think it's interesting because you're emotionally naked into ideas of saying, well, actually, why do I need to fit in? Who am I
Mm,
fitting in for? What part of
exactly.
me needs to feel that validation? It's obviously nothing to do with the way that I look. It always comes down to how do I feel on a day-to-day basis? Like looking at your music is interesting. You said people do put you in a box ultimately, and they put you in a box not for your benefit, but for their understanding of how the world operates. It's a lot easier to
Hmm.
look at things in this linear fashion, isn't it? Like, what
Hmm.
stops you then as an artist? Because you've done some incredibly famous tracks. What stops you from just turning around and saying, do you know what, Rajan, screw it. I'm now going to produce this that sounds almost yarnified, world music that comes together. Or do you know what, I'm going to try Tibetan throat singing and see if I can make a song out of that. How much of the commercial viability is at play with your decisions in terms of making music?
Um, I don't like to think about that really. I just like to create and feel and depending on the message I want to put across or the feeling of the music. I don't like to question uh the business side of it or like where I fit in, but it is very important. The reason I don't like to question it is because when I was younger, when I started playing, that was when I probably was most successful. And that was when I wasn't questioning it. I was just feeling and writing songs about healing the world, about homeless, about war, uh, and it was truthful and it was pure and it made people cry and there were stories. And I think what I want to do now is kind of go back to that, stop trying to pretend I'm this or pretend I'm that or try to fit in and just get back to my original message. So we'll see how that goes. Kind of already started. I've moved to a house and I have my own little studio in the house and I have a big garden and just trying to connect back to nature. I think after living in the city for 12 years and yeah, just kind of heal in a ways, even though I'm not really, you know what I mean? Like it's like first world, first world problems, first world healing. But you know what I mean? Like as an artist, I want to get back to that, the purity and the honesty.
I think it's deeper than just being an artist. I think it's a human thing, isn't it? We want to return back to what is authentically us. Because you realize
Yeah.
the older we get, and I should put caveat here that this is not the Jerry Springer moment, but it's the older we get, the more we start questioning the world and we start looking at ourselves saying, well, actually, what is it that I see? What are the messages that I hear but don't necessarily react upon? And almost when you're younger, you wrote this piece of music because there was no filter. You didn't need the filter. You realized just being you was good enough, and you could just almost become a medium for those untold stories that people feel but often don't speak about. And then when we start getting older and people start judging you and you realize, okay, there has to be some type of commercial element to the musical world and people want to have you look in a certain way, it almost takes away that magic, doesn't it? It's what are you searching for, Sarah, on your side? Forget about music. In your life, what is this human experience for you?
You have such a calming voice, Rajan. Can I say that first as well? I just love listening to you, and then I realize I have to answer. What am I searching for? Well, I went searching for my grandmother in India. I mean, obviously, I've been to India many times, but I went down to Bangalore. I think it was a couple of years ago, and funny enough, I think they used to sing in the church or something in the city or wherever they lived in Bangalore. And I went to the church just like thinking, let me find my grandmother. She's dead and gone, but let me, find where she was from and feel something. And Rajan, I didn't. I went all that way and I didn't. And I was like, what was interesting was I would see all these young women who looked like her. It's like I guess is it the Southern look? She has these soft, beautiful features. And I would see these women and I'd almost cry. Like, I want to cry. Oh my God. And I didn't find her. And I ended up coming home to Miami and doing yoga. I'm crying, dude. It's fucked up. Just doing yoga in my building. And I felt her in Miami. It's like, is that acceptance? I don't know.
Or it could be the case
Do people cry? Do people cry in your show?
But look, it's Sarah, this is I think if anything, it shows a testimony to how open you are, right? That is what it is to be human. And maybe it wasn't the case that you didn't find her. Could have been the case that you didn't recognize her. And it took you coming back after seeing all those faces to almost reflect that in yourself, to realize that those ocean qualities that you're searching for ultimately lay within. But when you came back to Miami and you felt that presence, what impact did that have on you?
I think I just realized that my grandmother's with me. And they were the ones that accepted me the most, and they're inside of me, and I don't have to, prove anything, I guess, because I had their love and their acceptance. This is messed up. I never cry about this. I'm laughing now. Sorry. I'm embarrassed.
You're very self-aware, aren't you?
I don't know. What does that mean? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I guess.
What does identity mean to you?
These are really deep questions. Identity. I mean, when you think about it, right? It's like, it's what we look like. When I see people, like when I judge others, that's their identity, right? And I'm judging them. For me, my identity, what identifies me is my music. I hope my care of the message that I put out in my music, leaving something positive in the world. And yeah, but still trying to fit in. I can't explain it to you.
You're doing a good job. It is. Is that no? But I get it. It's fitting in, isn't it? It's seeing the world through your own eyes, but recognizing yourself in that world that you see, knowing that there's some type of place for you to belong in there. It's interesting because people see you on TV, people listen to your music, but how often do they get this part of you, this undoctored, unedited version of, hey, this is my heart as a human being, this is what I go through? Because what you're feeling here is that the identity question is felt by people around the world. The difference is that, Sarah, you've got the guts and the fortitude to at least deep dive into it and say, well, actually, I'm very open about that needing of belonging. That has to go beyond just skin color, man. It has to go down to this idea of saying, here's a wave in which we all belong to, this consciousness. And it surpasses people's idea of ethnicity. It surpasses our ideas of DNA tests. And it goes down to the very core of saying, how do we unitedly see the world, for one? And secondly, how do we feel that we fit into that world to help reshape it or emerge it into something that we know that it can be, that it can feel like?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's I guess you're right. Do you think it comes down to like really how we look, how we're perceived?
I would hope in my feelings that it should never come down to that. But then you probably know me well enough to know that I have my own type of viewpoints that float up
Of course.
there. But
Of course.
I think a lot of people do judge you upon how you look. Look at the media now. It's any news article comes down to a base of ethnicity. This person does something to another, but now it comes down to their perception of ethnicity, or somebody who was black and somebody that was white. It becomes a binary nation. You look at the music industry, it's saying, yeah, you got a great voice, but do you have a great look? Everything else can be altered. Technology in itself has become perverse enough to almost create those identities in a very solidified moment that now you cannot move because they know what works. The algorithms make money from there. So I think we often do, don't we? The difference is with people like yourself and all of us is because we've traveled. We've seen the world enough that you start recognizing, well, like if I look at you, is she Indian or is she Romani or is she Dominican Republican? Is she Mexican? Is she Moroccan?
Is she Brazilian?
Is she Brazilian? Is she Ethiopian? It's like now all of a sudden everything just merges that you realize, oh, actually no, she's a cool person. I was going to call you geezer there, but I realized I'm talking from the British point of view. And it's only because you've seen the world as it is rather than how we are that you start to accept people. And I suppose that's the notion for all of us is, well, why can't we be accepted the same way that we accept everybody else? Maybe the world needs to get more passports to travel, or we should get rid of borders, one or the other. But it's
mixing is also a good thing, right?
Do you? Yeah, absolutely. What does it
is
mean
it?
to
But
you?
I'm now questioning it though, because I've questioned my whole life. Because I mean, I love there are positive sides. Let me get show a little bit of my happy side. I'm normally very happy-go-lucky. There are wonderful positive sides, you know, to both. I mean, Ireland was a great place to grow up I mean, before I had some bullying, some racial bullying and all that stuff. But before that, I mean, gorgeous country, green, very, very friendly people, wonderful, you know, live music scene. Fantastic place to grow up in general, and great country. And then India, wow, like going there as a kid, just the colors, the smells, the food. Like even these days, like when I feel sad, or like maybe even today after crying, I'll cook dal and rice, you know, make chapatis, and I will feel my grandmother with me. And those type of things like have stayed with me forever, and will stay with me forever, and will calm me, and yoga, and like I'm just so proud of, you know, both sides of my cultures. So mix, and like you said, the world has become smaller now. We're traveling more, we're mixing, we're like, as I said to someone recently, I was like, well, maybe the whole world is just going to be in brown soon, you know, by the time everyone mixes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said it to someone and they kind of looked at me and they were like, what's she on? But but yeah, maybe that's my, one day we'll all be mixed and don't judge each other.
So you said you
Does that
started
make
off
any
with
sense?
you started off with a positive. So then, what is the negative for you? Because obviously that reveals more about the experiences that you've been through.
The negatives are that, yeah, I got pretty badly bullied in Ireland. And probably it still affects me. I mean, I don't know. I think those kind of things, when they're bad, they can stay
stick.
with you. But yeah. And
What
then
were you bullied over?
the industry is actually a horrible industry as well. What was I bullied over? Half caste, Indian bitch. I don't know. Just racist bullying. I don't know if it was.
Was that a reflection of your ethnicity, or was it just a reflection of the kids growing up at that time?
I think both. I would hope that it's a bit better now. This would have been, you know, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like up to recently, I would still have dreams about it and want to strangle the girl who did it to me. But you have to move on. You know, you have to forgive. If anything, it made me dive into my music more and find escape and peace in my music. So, you know, everything happens for a reason. We have to embrace the good and bad, and they make us who we are. But negatively for the Indian side, I don't know. I don't really have anything negative to say about the Indian side, other than recently I did a Diwali gig and the guy didn't pay me. But no. I mean, what was the question again? Sorry, I'm such a rounder, dude. It's also 8 a.m. here.
No, I love it. I love this thing, and it's and we're only drinking coffee this morning as well. But I like
know,
it.
love
It just
it.
moves. It maneuvers, right? There's a rhythm there. It's almost a salsa tone in which we're going down the lines of. But I was saying it's like that bullying aspect, because obviously say it still sticks with you. And what's really remarkable is that you got this amazing international career. Do you know what I mean? It's and the ghosts of the past are still there. It must be a reflection of something deeper, because it's never the person, it's never the words, it's the intent. It's a reminder of some type of fragility that's there, that is yet to be healed or yet to be sought through, to deeply question over.
Exactly. And maybe that's when I realized that, you know, I'm not accepted as Irish. I'm not one of them. You know, I'll always be an outsider. But, you know, I can't say that about everyone. I have great friends who helped me through it and still help me through it. And now in Miami, I have such a big group of friends who are from everywhere in the world, and we call ourselves the foreigners, and it's fantastic. You know, we celebrate each one's like, you know, Independence Day of Peru, or, you know, Cinco de Mayo, or, you know, French. I mean, everything, and it's so eclectic. It's wonderful. And I think I've probably searched more for diversity in my life because of my mix. I'm always looking for something new I want to learn, or some new food I want to taste, or but it's fun. It's fun being in Miami. I recommend Miami.
You know what? It is a cool place. It's the only place where I go to in the airport where you are spoken in Spanish first, just because of again the way that you look, and English comes a bit further down that line, and I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Do you speak Spanish, Rajan?
I speak Italian. But yeah, I studied in Italy. I did my law and economics over there. God, this isn't about me, Sarah. You can tell that you work in the media. Look at you've been changing the microphone on me. Well, I want to ask you a question, actually. You're obviously doing a lot of the TV shows. You're doing these gigs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People ask you a lot of questions about the content of your life, right? It's the content of the work that you're doing. What is the one question you feel people should be asking each other?
You mean like when we meet each other and we're like, what do you do? That type of thing. Like when you introduce yourself.
as well as that too. Because I always suffer with that personally. People say, well, Rajan, what do you do? Well, I'm an explorer. And they look at you like as Indiana Jones, and have to describe that. Think of Indiana Jones, take away the whip, take away the hat, take away the action, and that is basically me. Just the Punjabi version of that. But it's also in the industry, because you work in an industry where you are being interviewed. You're being interviewed on the radio. You're doing interviews on TV. And part of that is to obviously sell the TV shows, to sell the music that you're working on. But in the course of those interviews, what's the one question you wish people ask you?
Well, I'm mostly actually interviewing others. I don't know, like, people ask me, my brain is actually like, I don't really understand your question. Sorry.
No,
what do people ask me? Like,
what is the one question you wish people would ask you?
That people would ask me? I don't know.
Or that you want people to ask you?
That I want people to ask me? I don't know. I mean, I guess what do I want to give to the world? Like what do I have special that I can give to the world? And I believe it's my music. And I don't have kids. I don't have that thing that I can leave behind, like children. So for me, it's music. And that's what I want to leave behind. And that's what I want my legacy to be, is a positive message with music. Does that make sense, Rajan?
Absolutely. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's this whole identity thing. Sorry, yeah?
I was gonna say, do you feel worthy?
Oh my God. There are a lot of questions, deep questions. Do I feel worthy?
It is only coffee in my cup this morning, I can promise you.
Worthy in what sense?
What does it mean to you?
Feeling worthy. You know what? Worthy to be in the music industry, worthy to, in that way, or I think my sense of feeling worthy is my dad brought me up to be very self-sufficient, to learn to play all the instruments I could, not just be a singer, not just be a pretty girl on the stage, to learn my guitar art as an art like form, to write, to be a real musician, to produce, to carry my own equipment when I go to gigs, to even be able to fix things myself, in the house or that type of thing. But when it comes to worthiness, I feel like, yeah, for me, it comes to music. Am I worthy to be able to be big enough to, spread my message out there of whatever message it is, whether it's a good message, I do feel worthy. I do feel worthy because I look at other artists and I'm like, fuck, how did they make it? But I also know it's a lot about luck, and it's an awful business. It's an awful business, Rajan. you know, at some stage, you know, I gave up music for a year because it's hard to wake up every day and just keep going and keep going. But it keeps coming back to the music and my instruments and those moments of almost meditation and believing that this was meant for me. I am worthy to play music. Sense? I don't know. I should be more prepared for these questions, Rajan.
No, but do you know what? I get it. It's you're almost living in, because it is a human experience, right? That's all that we have. And that we know everything else outside of that is on the peripheries. It's going to be superficial. So saying, well, what makes me innately happy? What is it that makes me drive, that goes forward?
Yeah.
And how can I best equip myself in this life, or however long or however short it may be, that I get the fullest enjoyable ability from that? Yours is from music, and it's something that is, I think there's a great quote. I can't remember it word for word, but it's when there's blood in the streets, that's when there's poetry needed more so in our hearts than ever before.
Wow.
I think that's the beauty of music. It has that ability through tones, regardless of language, but to connect people on such a deep level. But now all of a sudden we've commercialized it, and there's more pressure on the back of musicians like yourself to say, well, no, I want you to produce something like this. And you're saying, well, no, the message of my art is X, Y, and Z. This is what needs to be told. And like, no, Sarah, I want a piece of music that sounds like this, that looks like this, because I know that is what will sell. And that's kind of tough. I think you're torn because ultimately you found a lot of success at a younger age, as you said, because you just went with the flow. You just wrote. You're almost a spiritual medium, the Irish Indian girl on stage, kind of mediating through world peace. You were the Malala of the ages, but with a guitar, you know? It's
Don't know about that.
it's one guitar can change the world, you know? And that's quite interesting because I find you quite fascinating. This is a real different turn of a podcast, you know? Never done anything like this. I'm in uncharted territories here, man. What are you doing?
Yes, go on. Sorry.
No, go on. I'm listening.
No, I just wanted to say that the cool thing about nowadays in the music industry is that we are more independent. So I'm not signed to a label. Like when I was 14, like I said, I wrote this song about a homeless girl who died on the streets, and she died on the streets, and then the baby died on the streets, and very sad song. But that song ended up like winning the national song contest and went on to become like second in Europe in a European song contest. And then I came home from school one day. I was like, what, 13? And EMI was on the phone, Sony Music was on the phone, BMG was on the phone, Polygram was on the phone. Everyone was calling my dad. They'd found my house number, I guess, back in those days. And I came home, and I think my dad was even drunk. We never even had alcohol in the house. We couldn't afford it, but somehow he found beers, and he got drunk. And I came home, I was like, Dad's drunk. And then he's like, they all called. I'm like, what? All the record labels called. I'm like, holy shit. So we went around and we went to each record label, and I ended up signing with EMI. It wasn't the greatest thing. It wasn't a great experience. My entry into the music world was awful. That was when, that's kind of like what you were talking about, where they control you, and they're like, and they can also do things like, it's such an awful business that they can also do things where they sign you because there's an artist who's got a similar vibe, and they just want to sign you and pay you to keep you quiet so you don't compete with her. Like, it's horrible. So I don't know if that happened to me or what, but basically they signed me and they gave me money every month, which we needed money. We didn't have a lot of money, and I ended up earning more than my parents when I was 13. I remember we bought a secondhand car, and we took a trip to India, and we felt like we're rich, you know? And it was coming in every month for about 18 months. But you know what, Rajan? There was no music. There was nothing happening. There was like one producer, like now and then, who was a nice guy, but like we never released anything. And I was like, why the hell did you guys sign me? So it's a weird world. But now I am independent. So I own my own record label and my own publishing, and I can pick and choose what I want to release. The problem is, I think I have my own doubts about myself. So I'm like thinking, do I put this song out? Like, do people want to hear a sad song? Do people want to feel, or should I be like, it's just, I guess you're going to make me think more about this, and I'm going to put a song out. I'm going to send it to you.
Done,
But I'm
done,
going to
done.
try to get back to my honesty, and we do have that power nowadays as artists. We can be the main creators, and we'll see what happens. But having this conversation, Rajan, has really, been therapeutic for me. Like I said, your voice is very calming, and you make me think about a lot of things. And I hope I'm making some sense of it, because I don't know if I'm as smart or articulate as many of your guests, but enough for me anyway. Sorry. It's back to you.
No, I think it's brilliant. I think, you know what, these are the discussions that help, right? It's a fly on the wall. Everyone goes through these situations where you're re-looking at yourself and you got those areas of doubt. And the only thing that keeps you moving is hope. Hope, okay, do you know what? Things are going to work through. But that hope is also backed up by a deeper reassurance to know it is working. I can see progress. Like Sarah, we can't even control the sun coming up in the morning. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that we can't control as human beings. We don't even control our breath. I know that I laugh with you about my rugby tactics and now my free diving type of things, but there's a lot of things that we can't control. It's way out of our system. So then it's kind of crazy to think that we can control what the forecast of the next 5 or 10 years will be. But part of that ocean, part of that rhythm of what makes us alive is the uncertainty, the very fact that one single thought can change the very course of our actions and therefore change the way in which our lives are lived. That's a powerful idea to have. It just shows that we're only one thought away from something that can be truly, absolutely astonishing, but equally so, one single thought away from something that can cause absolute economic collapse and societal issues. Is the power of thoughts, I guess. So, do you know, it's been such a unique and refreshing experience having you on, because it's been a fly on the wall saying actually what goes through your mind. And it's interesting because you did find a lot of fame earlier on, and now I feel like it's a rising of the phoenix. I'm not going to use any more Harry Potter analogies, I promise you that. But it feels like there's a rise, there's a new change coming up. It's finding out who you are. And man, most people don't see you this way. And that's what's really interesting, is the fact that you're just deeply human in your approach.
Well, thank you for allowing me to open up like that. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to do it. I know that there are other people out there who possibly feel the same. So I hope someone out there can relate and know they're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a voice. I'm going to start doing hypnotherapy from now on. Look into the eyes, not around the eyes. You're now under, or the kiss of the Blarney Stone. Maybe that could be it from Ireland. So, it's been really good to have you on. I think it's a refreshing story, and I've got a feeling it's going to be one of many more discussions to come.
Oh, yes, I'd love it. And I'd love to see how I progress after this conversation, because like I said, it feels like good therapy. And you know what, Rajan, you're Indian and you accept me, right?
But do you know what? It's interesting because when we kicked up the whole global Indian side, people were questioning, saying, "Well, what do you mean? Is this like flying the flag of India?" I said, "No, not at all. It's probably the total opposite. India means something to us all in some weird way, but do we mean anything to it? Let's be honest, right? Politicians come and go, as long as you bring in money into an economy, you're accepted, you're wanted, you are one of us. The moment that you're not bringing money to an economy and you're not used to a country, well, politically, do people look at you the same wise?" And so this goes beyond the whole idea of India and into the ideas of saying, well, what's it like to be human? What's it like when we have these ideas of shared ancestry and like a good cuisine that you can take the same ingredients but cook in a totally different way and you get a totally different result? Turmeric ice cream being exhibit A, but it's really interesting because for me, it's your journey of through this incredible thing called life, and you're one human being that is one out of 1 trillion other species that co-inhabit this planet with us. That's a powerful place to be, man. It's even sitting in your garden, you're not alone. You may have me on the other side, but you got probably billions of microbes underneath your feet, and you got many more up in the air. And so it's how you're kind of going through that course right now to kind of identify it. So yeah, you're always accepted by me either way. That was my
Thank
long,
you.
that was my long way of saying something very short. What a remarkable conversation. It's incredibly interesting because it wasn't the way that I thought it would be. Like many of these podcasts, we always come in unscripted. We have no reservations in terms of how we want it to be. It's about two people, sometimes more, sitting together and having an open discourse about what's it truly like to be you. What are the deeper questions that arise? And really paying homage to this incredible thing called humanness. I think this podcast is a classic example that we all have the right to be emotionally naked. We all have the right to be us, to find that authentic space. And do you know what? It's fine if we're slightly lost, because that's also equally part of the journey. Well, until next week, I hope all remains well as we continue our journey looking at the 50 Shades of Brown discussions that redefine who we are and how we look at the world. More importantly, how we look at each other. Until then, I hope all remains well. Bye for now.
Global Indian Network. Print, TV, events, podcasts. Find out more at globalindianseries.com.